What's up, and welcome back to LunchBox Grows. In tonight's episode, we're going to cover some of the grow notes that I took about growing the Brie while we weigh out our harvest. It was a pretty good one. 3 plants and 6 half-gallon mason jars. Not to mention the amount of trim. So we're gonna see what the Brie did for us in 3 plants. 4-month harvest, 2-month flower, to the day. Let's see what we got. All right, first off, we are not cured yet. We literally just finished trimming 2 hours ago. But how am I not gonna try it? It's at 60% in the jars. They've been in the jars. Well, I finished trimming the last plant 2 hours ago. I finished trimming the 2 first plants last night. So they've been in the jars overnight and all day today, and they are sitting at 60% to 65%. So need to come down just a scotch on some of them, but you know, gotta allow for a little bit of error in those little gauges. These guys, I'm sure a lot of you use these. Super cheap on Amazon, but only so reliable. Buy a pack of like 10 or 15 or more, take them all out, lay them next to each other, leave them there for an hour, and then look at the gauges. Any of them that are like way off from the others, throw those away because they're obviously inaccurate. They're just trash. These things are like 10 cents a piece. So they're, you know, maybe 5 to manufacture is what I'm getting at. So they're not the most reliable, but they're very economical and they do serve a purpose. Just buy a lot of them so that you can make sure that the ones that are working are accurate and you just get rid of the ones that are way off, because I didn't do that before and I ended up with some jars that were really, really wet and some jars that were really, really dry. That's just inconvenient. But this is a little bit wet for smoking, but is dry enough. Cheers. Oh, that first, no. Like candy. Okay. First hit was like candy, and then I'm getting some good pine. Oh, it got me in the nose a little bit, kind of make you want to sneeze. You know it's piney when it gets you up there. Good little buzz coming on right off the bat. Not too bad. I'm not mad at it. It's not cured yet. It's pretty good. You could definitely smell and taste that it's still off-gassing. It's definitely not ready to smoke yet, but smokable it is. High, it will get you. That's got to be up there in the percentage range because I've been smoking all day, and a couple of hits already got me a little bit stoned. So yeah, it's got to be up there in the potency. All right, so you know, in my garden, I keep everything pretty meticulously organized, kind of number everything, keep everything in sequence. But so each plant that I've harvested is derived into their own jars. Brie plant 1, Brie plant 2, and Brie plant 3. That way when I'm trimming, I don't just trim everything together and throw it all together. Every plant is a different phenotype, and each plant has different characteristics, and those are what I'm looking for in the plant. You know, I want to give a fair evaluation. So if I just mix everything together, it's not going to give an evaluation of the dependency of that strain. For example, the cheese that's in flower right now, which you'll probably see in the next video, I have two phenotypes and one that's clearly very different. It's really cool to see how, you know, the bud structure and the leaf structure is totally different. In veg, they look identical. They grow identical. They do the same stuff. And then you go to flower, and come flower, they do crazy shit. Like the one phenotype has big frosty buds and the leaves are already changing colors. And the other two are not quite so much in that neighborhood. It seems like their flowers are a little bit behind. Still healthy and happy, but not as vigorous as the one. So again, that's where taking notes and taking clones, if you're pheno hunting and trying to get a consistent crop of any one particular strain, that's how you know. You get to harvest, you get all the way through harvest, and now the clones that you took when those plants were still in veg right before you moved them to harvest, so you have nice mature clones that are young, you can decide which ones that you want to keep and which ones you want to discard sooner than later, so you're not taking up extra space in the garden, yada, yada, yada. I'm rambling. Let's get to weighing this shit out. All right, plant number one. Dun, 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 dun. What's that humidity gauge in there shaking around? I don't need that on the scale. Clumpy dumpties. There we go. Yeah, this stuff needs to dry out a bit for sure. It's still way, way stuck together. All right. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Jar number two. Plant one for sure. Okay. Yeah, this one's showing a little bit different, so there are variations in those gauges. And 176 grams for plant number one. And I did not make note of this, but in the garden, the super purple one that was like to the far left of the door, that's plant number one. So 176 grams off that girl. I'm gonna put these buds back in the jars and then we'll do the other one. All right, plant number two. Yeah. Take our gauge out. Sitting right at 60. Not embellishing by weighing. Super wet buds. And rest assured, I will do close-up pics and put those in the edit as soon, like at the end. So, and although this is a healthy mix of big and small, medium-sized buds, everything that's good for smoke after the trim, I'm pretty selective. I only take the better looking buds, and the rest of it all goes in the trim bag. I'll show you that up close so you can see all the little larf buds and everything that are in there. But I'll take some pictures of this too so you can actually see what it looks like, because I know the GoPro doesn't show the quality, like, or the texture or anything like that very well. All right, let's see where we're at on plant number two. 17 grams so far. Start blocking the thing. 83. The stickiest of the icky. I love how sticky fresh buds are. Kind of a pain, but something you gotta love, you know? All right, 169. Plant number 2 coming in a little bit under plant number 1. Once again, to rejar and unjar. Jars number 3. This plant is the stinkiest for sure, like the gassiest of all 3. Really digging the smell on this one. Apparently I don't have a humidity gauge in this jar because I haven't found it yet. Dun, dun, dun. What do you think that is? How many grams do you think that is? 66. Were you close? Let's see. I think this one's going to be the best smelling, probably the best tasting, but maybe the lightest weighted. And what do you think? $131. Plant number 3, 131. The least by far. So let me jar this up real quick. So what does that leave us with? The trim. Let's see what we got for trim. 2 Ziplocs, 2 Ziplocs. Just to tear that out, 26 grams. First one, whatever. 287. 482. That is also beneficial, useful part of the crop, and it should not go to waste. Even if you're not making waxes and concentrates, you can make topicals, butters, edibles, Rick Simpson oil, all kinds of really good stuff out of this. And it's not just leaf, it's sugar leaf and all of the larf bud that is the lower canopy that didn't actually have density to it when I was squeezing it, when I was going through. So like I pull the branches down from drying, and then as I work through those branches, I'll work from the bottom up and just squeeze the buds as I go up. And if they're squishy and fluffy, I just keep moving, and then once I hit the dense buds, I start trimming those buds off. And those buds go into a jar, or not into a jar, but into a bowl or a tray. And I collect, those are my good buds, the dense ones, the ones that actually have some decent substance to them, actual good sized buds. And then everything that's fluffy, larfy, that's below that, that just gets pulled off the branch and thrown right into the trim bag. I bother wasting my time with it trying to trim and manicure that. So that's how I go about selecting my buds, my keeping buds, my keeper buds, smoking buds, as opposed to my processing stuff. Oh, kitty. right, so where does that put us? Mathematicians in the house will probably know I had to use a calculator. The bud total was 476 grams, or 1 pound 1 ounce, about 17 ounces. Total usable product, 2 pounds 2 ounces, when you include the 482 grams of trim and sugar leaf and larf. So that's pretty good. Not getting a pound per plant by any means, but I mean, if you're not scrogging and really maximizing your space, it's going to be really hard to get a pound per plant. Like, you got to do some serious training. I don't care what you're growing or what you're growing in. A pound per plant is a cat's dream. Very hard to accomplish indoor. Outdoor is another story. Outdoor, you can get a lot of pounds per plant because you have a lot more space. The plant has a lot more time to grow. Most people who grow indoor veg for like 2 to 3 months. I'm kind of pushing it with the 4-month veg. But I do that because I kind of grow not only for quality, experimentation, and flavor, but of course yield. I'm trying to get as much for my efforts as I can. You know, I'm not trying to grow a 2-3 ounce plant just to see how the strain works out. If I'm putting 6 months of my life into growing these plants, I want to be able to smoke and enjoy them for a while. So ultimately, if I get a pound a month out of 3 plants with my perpetual grow, that's a good amount of weed for me to stay smoking on and not have to worry about rationing or anything like that. I can smoke blunts till the cows come home and not have to worry about running out before my next harvest. I'm not going to smoke a pound this month, so that's all relative, because since I grow different plants every month, every harvest is different. Some harvests are not good. Some harvests are total flops. The whole Hermie harvest, all of that bud went straight for concentrates. And I did that live resin wax run. But personally, I like to smoke on flower. So it's nice when you get a good yield of some good flower that you can actually smoke on for a little while and not have to worry about running out super quick because you rushed through the grow. So let's talk some grow notes. If you've been following along, you probably already know, but I did summarize. So, January 17th, no seedling notes. Growing very sativa, stretchy after training. I'm sure I'll have to super crop all 3. Defoliation has been pretty easy up to this point. Oh no, they were planted November 23. So I really slacked on making early notes on this. So they're 2 months old at that point. 2 months and 17 days. Topped 3 or 4 times each. LST was done on 4 locations for the tops to grow together. We'll see how that goes in flower. It went very well. Did some crazy training today in top. Trimmed and lollipopped plant 1. Got basically mainlined at 2 main tops, taking top 5 nodes plus extra LST. So these girls really did take a lot of training. Like, they did a lot of high stress training in order to make it through my long grow cycle and be manageable in flower and not be too big and tall. If I hadn't done any training on those, they would have hit the roof. Like, without question, they would have hit the roof. Gone way past the lights. Some strains, it's just 100% necessary. You have to do some crazy training. And I'm glad that I did that in, you know, now that I'm going back and thinking about it. Because they were already like, what, like this tall when I harvested? So the lights are only like this much higher. They're not that much higher above my head. And I only have an 8-foot ceiling. So by seriously stunting their vertical growth with multiple training techniques, it was perfect. Plant 2, major LST, 90-degree bends at 3 points on 2 main branches. The 4th bend was high stress training using super crop. Plant 3 just had some extra LST with 90-degree bends on 2 branches using other branches as anchor points. Major sativa grower, major training needed to keep low. And I wrote that huge in my notebook. I'm glad I took these notes because I would totally forget this. Like, I forget all this stuff. I had to do 123, January 23. Had to do some extreme training to keep height down. Vigorous, strong, happy plants. Gonna be a heavy yielder, I'm sure. Very tolerant and quick to recover from trainings. 129, very status quo, steady growth, explosive initial growth, has slowed to a manageable level. Good, because there's only 1 month veg to go, and I was getting a little worried. 219, retrained, defoliated a few days ago, looking great, very tall but full, excited to get into flower. 3-1, flower day, first plants under the Mars Hydro FC 6500s, starting out at 60% intensity. 412, from 3-1 to 412, so a month later. Just amazing. Color change started very early into 12-12 cycle. Deep purple on one of them after 15 days. Orange, red, purple on all plants now. Very big colas, trichome rich, strong sweet candy funk smell. Very strong stems, minimal branch tying is necessary once weight is on. I'm going to change my mind on that. But I didn't make any more notes. That big purple one off to the left, the two other ones didn't need any extra reinforcement. The big purple one off to the left, she did. And what I did is I ended up taking some metal wire garden tie, that like actually heavy wire that's wrapped in the green plastic, like a heavy gauge electrical wire almost, so like when you bend it, it stays in place. I wrapped that all the way up and around the stem from about 3/4 of the way, or from about 1/3 of the way up, so that the 2/3 of the branch was wrapped up along the main stalk. And then I can kind of take that and just position it into place to keep it from falling over on itself. I had to do that with like 5 or 6 of the branches on that plant. Otherwise, they would have more than likely fallen over to the point where they would have been beyond 90 degrees and probably broken or fallen off. Harvest was smooth. Chopped fewer than usual whole branches because I chopped them whole, and left watered leaves on there for drying in the drying tent. Drying still only took 5 days at 60% humidity, with the exhaust vent on low and the circulation fan on low inside the tent. Had the humidifier in there, and it's in the main house, and it's been probably 30-40% humidity outside, so it hasn't been insanely dry, but 5 days is still a little bit quick on that drying time. Well, there it is. There's the harvest of the Brie. I'll do a strain review after it's actually had a chance to cure properly. I can't really judge the taste of it based on what it is now, because obviously smokers know the cure is very important. So once it has a chance to really equalize, level out, and off-gas properly, I will do a strain review on this bud. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you decide to grow this, because even before the cure, I can tell you I will definitely be growing this bud again. This is the Brie by Rugamontito. She's a little bit of a challenge to grow, but well worth it in the end. If you're a beginner grower, maybe get your training skills together before you try and tackle this one. Advanced growers, definitely do this. Anybody that's grown this strain or any other strain that I've grown on my channel, please drop a link in the comment. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see how your crop comes out, because I love to see other people's grows, and everything is always different. You can take 2 clones, grow them side by side, well, separate rooms, under different conditions with different nutrients and different cycles and blah, 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 and you're gonna get different plants. Ultimately, if you do the right steps on both sides, you're gonna get 2 great looking plants, but they will be different based on environment, nutrients, conditions, everything. So it's always a lot of fun for me to see what other people do and how their crops come out. Drop a link in the comment. Let me know what you thought about the harvest. Is it as much as you thought? Is it less? Is it more? Is it worth it? Do you think this is a high yielder? Let me get the opinions. Drop your opinions. Until next time, one more time, cheers.